And before we get started, I'd like to say a few words about Trent Kenelly. He's our immediate past district director. He has held every role in the district leadership trio, and he's held other roles as well. But more importantly, did you know that Trent Kenelly has worked in the district for about 5+ years in a variety of leadership roles beyond the ones I just mentioned, and he likes dad jokes. Did you know that? You probably did. But what Trent doesn't know, or he should know, is that those particular dad jokes should stay in his database. Please welcome Trent Kenelly, our moderator.
Thank you, Mallory. I do appreciate that. I honestly already know that there's several members of the body politic that probably disagree with the fact that whether or not my dad jokes are funny. When we look at a panel discussion on district leadership, and this one is specifically designed for area directors, but it applies across the board because, let's start off easy. Shakina, you have had how many different roles at the district leadership and you keep coming back? Why?
Well, this is my third time around, actually. I served initially as area director in 2015, 2016. Then I went on to be division director 2016, 17. And I am currently the area 44 director for Division D. I keep coming back because I know firsthand that good help is hard to find. It's hard to get people to fill these different roles. And I wanted to be of help to this district. That was my main goal.
Excellent. Now, Bruce, you and I have been friends for a number of years. I learned something this morning that I didn't know. You know that I've actually been a Toastmaster longer than you have? Which kind of scares me considering that you have more hair than I do. Why did you come back to district leadership?
Toastmasters is in my blood. I thought I was only going to be in Toastmasters overall for maybe 6 months, and here it is now 18 years. But why did I come back? Because I enjoy Toastmasters. I enjoy the camaraderie that we have, and I enjoy the change, like Leverett talked about. I am enough, and I learned so much by being an area director, and it's going to be helpful for those that would like to be an area director, to let them know that we enjoy the role and we embrace the change that they would take by being an area director.
Thank you, Bruce. Oh, and for those that are on the call that are not panelists, there could very well be door prizes for questions. I don't know quite where Mallory and I are going to get these door prizes, but at the same time, I'm pretty confident that most of the panelists will get something out of this other than a laurel and a hearty handshake. But all of you get the Raisin Award because you're all deserving a raise in pay. So
another one of those bad jokes.
Not yet. We're not there yet, but we're close. So Brian, you're in the Air Force, right?
I am.
So when Lefford was talking, how did that resonate with you? Not just from a current member, and thank you for your service. My daughter is an E5, by the way. In the Army, she's actually doing food inspection, which is funny because the Navy doesn't have food inspectors, which could be why they came up with the nice thing that they serve in all the chow halls called SOS. And for those that don't get the joke, ask one of us afterwards. So, but Brian, when we talk about this resonation between, a resonation between what's going on in the armed services and what's going on at Toastmasters, why did you feel that you wanted to become part of the greater politic of Toastmasters International?
When you say greater politic, you're talking about stepping up into district leadership?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. Well, it started off when I PCS from Hawaii, so I was the president of the club from there, and a longtime member recommended I join as soon as I got here. He said that if I all I had to do was ask. If I said, "Hey, I'm interested in being an area director," I would become an area director. Like the need for leadership was just there. That it seems to be something that Toastmasters is hurting for in general. And I was like, it probably won't be that bad. I'll throw my name in the pot to see what happens. And I got here and I talked to Douglas Wilson, the one that everybody seems to know. And Douglas, as soon as I said, "Hey, I'm interested in district leadership," boom, 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 boom. I'm getting all kinds of emails. I'm like, oh goodness, I guess there is a need for leadership. And that resonated with me because that's kind of something I'm learning and I'm studying about and trying to figure out for myself is how to be a better leader. And I wanted to seize any opportunity that was out there, whether or not I felt I was ready for it. I didn't know if I was ready for it or if I could do it. But as Leffert said in his speech earlier, there's the frogs that decide to jump off and the frogs that actually jump. So I took the opportunity and I jumped into this position.
Thank you, sir. So Ashley, I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, I just thought Brian Hood's middle name should be Wolf.
Okay. So Malvery, we're going to go and put dad joke, score a 1 to Chuck. There will be prizes for the worst dad jokes. Sorry, Bruce, you're disqualified. Remember the deck. So Ashley, you're a member of Colonial, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And you like mentoring people. How does that help you in getting outside of the club box, so to speak?
Well, and I have to apologize for my voice because I don't feel well, so y'all can bear with me. But when it comes to mentoring, we talk about helping people and getting people outside that comfort zone. And so as an area director, I was asked to take on this role. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was like, I don't think I have the experience. I haven't been here long enough. Let's find someone else in my club who can do it. So I end up taking this role, and I'm glad I did because it's forcing me to push myself harder, which then I bring that back to the Colonial Club. When COVID hit, we had to go virtual. We lost over half of our members. And so we've been trying to pick that back up, trying to move forward. And so taking what I'm learning and seeing from the other clubs in my area has helped me to bring that back to my club. And also from a mentor standpoint, pushing people outside their comfort zone. Because I'm not just telling you, I'm living it. So yes.
I appreciate that, Ashley. Malvery, there's a note in the chat box from Norfie. So, Norfie, you have been a Toastmaster for going on almost 10 years, right?
Yes, about 10 years, yes.
But you've been in a variety of types of clubs.
I have.
How has that 10-year experience broadened your horizon as a leader?
It's taught me to adapt. It's kind of, I'll say it's taught me to adapt and say different, if we use an example of different type of clubs. I came from Blue Streak. That's my home club. That's my original club. That's my intro into Toastmasters. Blue Streak is a corporate club. So in corporate club, I try to, in corporate clubs, it's like everything has to be set. We do it like this. We're out by the hour. Do not talk over that hour. We all have 1 o'clock meetings, not for an hour. You have certain guidelines you want to stay in. You want to make sure you're politically correct in everything in the corporate club when you're speaking. But when I went to a community club and I started visiting other clubs, I saw people doing things differently. So it taught me to broaden my horizons in that way. And I saw that the other clubs had their, like Leffert said, governors off. So gotta help me learn to take my governor off or adjust my governor, which is a good thing to do. Maybe adjust the governor or take the governor off when needed and adapt to different environments. I would say it's helping to adapt to different environments and appreciate different environments. Maybe even take the good parts of, and I've done that with my corporate club, even take the good parts from other clubs that you see and try to incorporate it into your club. Or if you think they're doing something better, maybe take it out of your club and bring it to their club.
Thank you, Norfie. And I would be reticent if I didn't say this, but you are the only panelist right now that has an award named after him.
I am. Am I? Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, because I'm pretty confident if they called it the Bruce Award, people would say, "Oh my God, he."
Yes, the Norfie Award, my club, which I very much appreciate, my corporate club. It was an inside joke thing. When you have the word of the day, how many of us go through clubs? You give the word of the day, and nobody uses the word of the day. I know a lot of us have that. We usually forget the word of the day. I think a lot of us we try to use it. Maybe the table topic master, and the Toastmaster, they may use it, but after that, it's forgotten. So I had the reputation of overusing the word of the day. I use it all the time. I use it 5 times. I use it correctly. I use it incorrectly, and they only count the correct ones. But we had a word of the day award. That's something I actually brought from another club into the corporate club, having the word of the day award. Who says the word of the day the most, to try to bring that, to encourage people to use the word of the day the most. And I would overuse it. I would overuse the word of the day 3 times in one sentence, if that's possible. So eventually they just changed that award to the Norfie Award, because I would always win the word of the day award. And now I think it's worked. People in my club are using the word of the day a lot more now. It's got to create a friendly competition thing, and I don't always win the Norfie Award, but when I do, I definitely pop my collar, when I do win the Norfie Award. So I still try to win it, but I'm happy to see when I don't win it, because it's encouraging everyone to use the word of the day more.
Great answer. So, Carmel, what is Corn's favorite holiday?
Halloween.
New Year's Day.
Why?
Hey, I didn't put dad jokes in the introduction. That was done to me by the district leadership. But I'll be remiss.
Well, I guess you start the year corny then.
But I always make a New Year's resolution about Velcro, because at least one then sticks.
Very good.
All right. So the purpose of this session is to involve the audience, other than the fact that apparently Bruce has a little bit of carpal negative syndrome going on. I'm not quite certain what that is. So we're going to do a round of stuff, but then I would really, really, really like to open it up to the group here, because this is one of those times that you don't normally get in Toastmasters, where you do have a number of seasoned, or in Bruce's case, slightly burnt from overcooking people. And for those that don't get the whole byplay between myself and Bruce, we're actually really good friends, but he really does, I think, as the British say, he loves taking the piss out of me. So I'm going to go ahead and
what
open
your
it up.
definition of friend is.
Yeah, a friend is apparently the bison that runs toward the storm while I'm running away. Go on, take one for the team. All right, so let's go and open it up to the floor. And who's got a question for the panel? And for the record, the panel also includes Malvery and myself, and I do believe, Chuck, you're also in a district leadership position. So pretty much, as long as they say it's clean, all questions are on the table.
Let me start off, Trent. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Getting people to become area directors and possibly getting part of the deck. You want to get other individuals. You see people that are fantastic Toastmasters. They are good. But to be able to have them make the next step up, how do we get these people to do that?
Okay, so you can use two methods. The how will this help you method, which is very much like Lefford's speech today. Or you can use the Sworner method, which is you appoint them and then they don't run away screaming. The big thing that I found is it all is about finding out their why. So if I look at the panelists, there's not one member of the panel that has the same life story as any of the others. We have veterans, we have active service members, we have people that have done this, people that have reasons to do this, people that have been recognized. But if I had to boil it all down, I would say something that Charles Gates taught me, which was R. 90% of the time, people will help you if you acknowledge, you recognize, and you encourage. If I have a takeaway for anybody on this session, it is that, you know, Shakina is a fabulous Toastmaster, and she has a great ability to motivate people. Brian, today you alone have gotten how many new mentors? You've gotten, because if I'm not mistaken, Douglas is also is a veteran in the Air Force. You've got Lefford alone, so you've already got those pieces. And it is taking that application and moving it forward. As wise people say, a plan without a date is a thought or a fallacy. Because you've not only got to set the date, you have to make sure that you have the pieces in there. Whether that's using things like 40X, whatever the mechanism it is. You know, we did an entire session, I guess it was about 2 years ago, Malvery, on 2 years in a row on Start With Why. But if you find out what that person's intrinsic motivation is, because let's be clear, nonprofits are not normally extrinsically motivated. They're intrinsically motivated upon their personal growth. Those that are extrinsically motivated are going to be the ones that want to become an international director, second VP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Personally, you know, Bruce and I have had this conversation about once you get your DTM, now what? What are you going to do? And that's why if I had a great rename for this session, it would be servant leadership, because most of the people that are on this panel are giving back of their time right now. You know, Ashley, you put it very, very poignantly when you talked about it. This is part of what it is. It is finding the why that's intrinsic to the person. Does that help, Chuck?
It's good, especially that last part of saying servant leadership and giving back to the organization. I think that was the best part. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Great question.
Great, Trent. I have a question for the panel.
Please.
What in this AD role has impacted your professional life and why? And I'm going to ask Ashley to start that round.
Sure. Actually, I just took a new role at work right before I was asked to be area director. Excuse me. And in my new role, I will have to do public speaking. And actually, I have to do 2 webinars coming up in 3 weeks. It could be 20 people, it could be 200 people on the call. Like I'm not going to know. And when I think about how does this role impact my professional life, number one, from a recognition standpoint, when I shared with my new boss and my new mentor that I've taken this role, of course, based on their reactions, they looked at it like, okay, you're putting yourself out there to increase your leadership. And that translates to people in the workforce because they want to see you always pushing yourself and not just staying in the same bubble and having the same, work every year, like how you continue to grow. So from that standpoint, it impressed my boss. But for me personally, this kind of gives me that extra touch And hopefully I'd be feeling better then, but it gives me that extra touch. So when I do have to get in front of an audience and when I have to give those presentations, you know, Toastmasters and being area directors give me that extra practice and that extra confidence to be able to present, to be able to get those questions on the spot, because I will. It's going to happen. So being more prepared, being more confident, and being able to take what you're learning in this role and bring that to my new job. So for me, again, just glad that I put myself out there and said I do it. And as I'm continuing to learn and grow as an area director, because I'm have clubs who are more experienced than me. You know, they've offered to say, hey, you know, I've done this role before. If you need some input, let me know. And for anybody, it's kind of like if you're a manager, if people on your team are more experienced than you, that can be uncomfortable. But instead of taking and looking at it from a insecure standpoint, you take it and say, okay, let me engage, let me learn from it, and let me improve myself. So I just think it just brings some great values and some great soft skills that you can apply in your everyday role.
Thank you for sharing that. That is awesome.
Mallory, one quick follow-up, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
So Ashley, when I was doing my Pathways DTM, I found about 90% of the pathway stuff was directly applicable to my job, my professional life. Have you started tying the two together?
Yeah, so like I said, I've done a few presentations in a smaller audience, but these two coming up, it's going to be a larger audience. So like for today, this panel discussion is truly going to be similar to what I'm going to be doing then, except for it won't be 5 of us. It's going to be me and my teammate who'd be, you know, looking at the chat, but it's going to be all eyes on me. So this environment gives me, I don't want to say practice, but it does help me to feel more comfortable being in that kind of position. So yes, looking at those things in the project line, it does relate to my current role.
Excellent, excellent. Shakina, can you answer the same question about how thank you, Ashley, well done, how that AD role has impacted your professional life? Can you share experiences? Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Yes, it has helped me in 3 ways, actually. It helps me to be better at multitasking. That's something that I can always benefit from improving on. So at the workplace, you know, you have 5 different tasks that you may have to do at once, if not more. So multitasking as a Toastmaster has helped me to be better at multitasking in the workplace. It helps me with my leadership skills, enhancing my leadership skills, because in my early years of being a Toastmaster, and even before then, if I knew I had to do a presentation or conduct a meeting, if I knew in advance, at least 2 weeks in advance or longer, I had time to compose myself, to think about what I was going to say and how, but I was always concerned about being called on at a moment's notice, 10 minutes prior, 15 minutes prior, by my supervisor and telling me, I need for you to conduct this meeting or do this training. That always concerned me. But being a leader in Toastmasters has given me the confidence to step up in the workplace and take on those unexpected tasks that may come my way. And last but not least, I've gotten better as far as being more tech savvy. That's always been one of my weaknesses, being tech savvy. The difference between me being an AD now and when I was back in 2015, 2016, is we're having to do things virtually this time around. With the contest, all the forms had to be sent electronically as far as the votes. And some of you may laugh when you hear this, but that was one of my biggest concerns when I was planning my contest, because I knew from competing last term that the judges, they submit their entries and they send it off. And I said, okay, I understand that it gets sent off, but how will I get it? So Lisa Berry said, she sat with me one night and showed me everything I needed to know as far as the electronic forms and how I would get it and how this person would receive it. So that was one of the biggest hurdles that I had to get over. Help being an AD this time around was the tech savvy piece to it. But I'm happy to say that I have benefited in that regard as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm hearing a lot of good things about we're using our space and our time as an area director or just as a Toastmaster to build muscle for the real world. I heard somebody managing their time, learning how to deal with people better, translating into promotions at work. That is awesome. I can keep going, but I will pause there for a second to see who else has questions.
Right. Yeah. So let's release this back to the audience for a moment, see if they got questions. Because again, that one's a great one, and then we'll have everybody on the panel answer them. But our time, I want to make sure that we give the people. Carmel.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Sherry, hold on. Carmel's got the floor.
The question I have is exactly what is the role of an area director? What is the duties? What do they do? I mean, can you elaborate on that and how much time it requires and so forth? What is it? What is the steps and skills you need to do on a general basis throughout your term?
Excellent
So
question.
the coolest thing is we actually have our program quality director on today, and she could certainly give us a nice synopsis and a table topics format of what does an area director do?
I can, but because I'd like the panel to be really engaged, can one of you take that question and all of you chime in where we miss them? So I see Chuck's raising his hand, and I expect Brian and others to fill in any gaps. Go ahead, Chuck.
Carmel, one of the things I realize is you can do either minimums or you can do a lot. Let me just talk about the minimums that you look at as being an area director. An area director should go to each of the club meetings that you have. And if you have 3 or 4 clubs or 5 clubs, the minimum is to go over and see each of the clubs. That's the minimum. And also being able to fill out the area director reports. And at that point, I look at that and say, this is the minimum. And if somebody else can talk about other parts, I think that'd be good.
Brian, how was the role for you? What responsibilities did you have?
He covered a good part of it in the minimums, which was doing the reports, but also helping coordinate the competitions that come up and being an integral part of that, especially as coordinating, going back and forth. You're responsible for making sure your clubs are actually running their competitions, because you start at the club, the clubs have their competition, then it goes to the next level, the areas, and then division, and then district. So you're kind of making sure it happens at the lowest level and then moves up to your level and then moves to the next level. So you're kind of a middleman, as it were. And that's where a lot of your time can be taken up.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Brian. All right. So what do you call a zombie who doesn't like jokes? Dead serious.
Okay. Hey, Bruce, can you add a little bit more to that?
Dead serious?
Yeah, I'll pass on adding more to what Trent just said, but I'll add to what Brian has said. And I think an area director is a liaison between the clubs in your area and the district. You're also, as an area director, you're a mentor. You mentor those clubs and you learn from those clubs. Someone mentioned earlier that you pick the good things from some of these clubs that you're a mentor for, that you're a liaison for, and incorporate them in your current club. So I think it is really important and really fun to be an area director, to learn and to help them grow as the clubs should be growing, and to answer any questions that they have and help them in any way for them to be successful.
I like that definition a lot. The area directors are exactly what Bruce said, but you want to be the boots on the ground, to use a military term. You want to be aware of what's going on with those clubs, so you build trust by visiting them. I heard Shakina talk about time management. Your clubs in an area can range anywhere from 3 to 5, sometimes more. Bruce has 6. So you want to go talk to them, build that relationship, build that trust, because it's all about member engagement and making sure every single member through this relationship building is successful, because that's how we all become successful. Who wants to add more to that, Shakina?
Yes, and Bruce, you took liaison. I was going to use that exact word. But I just wanted to also add that a big misconception about us as area directors is when we come and visit the clubs, they think we're there to spy on them or we're there to hover over them. That's a big misconception. We're there to be of support. We're there to help and observe the different things that you're doing so that we can perhaps provide suggestions on some things you can do better. And not only that, you may be doing some things that is so great that we can take it to other clubs and say, hey, this is what some of these other clubs are doing. But we're your friend. We're not the enemy. We're not there to spy. When I went to visit one particular club a couple years back, the guy said, I thought we were in trouble.
Very good. Very
So,
good.
you know, so that be genuine, be authentic, and show them that I'm here for you. I'm here to help you grow and learn and change for the better.
Awesome. Thank you.
Malvery, I think you've got at least one or two panelists that haven't answered this question yet.
Yes. Who else wants to jump in before we go to Sherry? I think she had a question. Who else wants to jump in?
I'm just going to,
Ashley. Mhm.
I'm just going to quickly address because Carmel asked about the time commitment. And, you know, we have, you know, like our leadership meetings in the evening. So that could be, you know, twice a month. Your clubs, because depending on where they're located, like everything now is virtual. So like I have a club that meets at lunchtime. Then I have other ones that meet like on a Saturday, might meet in the afternoon, in the evening. So the clubs that you have in your area, it varies in terms of when you like do your virtual visits. And I think Chuck mentioned it earlier, the timing as far as like how often you visit, like that is up to you and also the frequency of those clubs. So you don't have to go to every club meeting, but you know, at least you want to show up more than one time to visit your virtual clubs.
The minimum would be once every 6 months. You visit each club.
That's the minimum, right? Right. But we want to do more than that, time permitting. I know everybody has families and jobs, and so managing that time becomes really critical. Sherry, did you have a question?
No,
Sorry.
Northie hasn't answered yet.
Oh, Norfie, how could I miss Norfie? Norfie.
Okay, it's okay. Everyone's pretty much said everything. I'll pretty much say, to sum it up, area director, you're almost wearing whatever hat, you're wearing different hats depending on your clubs. You may be a resource, meaning, and because I have one club that asked me, you know, we don't know how to do hybrid meetings, you know, so I can give, oh, we don't know anything about pathways. Let me give you this resource to pathways. If I don't know it, I can pass it on. You might need to be, I think Bruce said a liaison. That was a great word. The Shakina liaison. You might need to be a guide, help guide them somewhere. And they might just need you to come in and play a role, be a role. Come be our general evaluator. Come be our speaker, you know, so assistant. A reporter, you might need to report the news to them. Hey guys, come on TLI. These are our incentives. We need to be our reporter. So you pretty much, you wear different hats depending on what your club needs. You're that resource. You're that person of many hats that the club needs. And depending on your area in the club, that's the time you would have to spend. If you have 4 5-star clubs, if you have 4 DCP clubs, you might just need to be a reporter and just say, hey guys, I'm showing up to your club. I know you don't need me to play a role, I'm just gonna visit. Make sure you come to TLI, make sure you come to the spring conference. These are the incentives. You might, and that'd be great. Not likely gonna get an area like that, but that would be great if you could just be a reporter, but it depends on the hats you have to play for which club.
Awesome.
Thank you, Northie.
Carmel, sorry, Trent. Carmel, are we answering your question? Do you have a good sense for that? Okay, great. Back to you, Trent. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. Before I release the floor over to Sherry for a question, what do you call anxious dinosaurs? Nervous Rex.
Dad
Sherry,
jokes.
take away.
Thank y'all so much. So my question is, what has been the most challenging part of being an area director, and how have you overcome that challenge, or how are you working to overcome that challenge?
That's a good question.
Brian.
I can start this one off. For me, it was what I spoke to earlier, the club contest. There is a lot that goes into a club contest. I was always on the back end, either attending or participating in a contest. And to me, it was all seamless. It just looked like, hey, you show up to a meeting, you log into Zoom, and it's good to go. There is a ton of things that go on in the background. And when I started seeing all those things and what I needed to do to help make it happen, I immediately felt overwhelmed. as far as how I overcome it, I have an awesome division director, Jessica. She is just amazing, and she guided me through the entire process. So for me, overcoming it was accepting that I didn't have to do it all, that I could rely on those who have gone through it time and time again. To them, this is the old hat. They're like, oh yeah, I got to do this, 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 this. They know it off memory. I'm sitting there looking at a book like, I gotta do what? What does that even mean? So that would be, that's pretty much sums up my answer.
When I served as area director the first time around, one of my biggest challenges was reading and being able to understand the dashboard. There is so much information on the dashboard. As area director, it's important that you know how to read it, that you understand it, because if you want your clubs to reach select distinguished or president's distinguished status, you have to be able to understand the dashboard to know how the different clubs are progressing. So that was the biggest challenge for me the first time around. And sometimes with me personally, when you're the new kid on the block, sometimes you may be afraid to ask questions. So you have to speak up if you don't know, because you may not be the only one in the boat that may have those same concerns and questions. And like I already stated the second time around, this time around was just becoming more tech savvy with the electronic forms and ensuring that that part ran smoothly.
So Shakina, just a quick follow-up. On your first time around as an area director, when you ran into issues with the dashboard, how did you fix it?
Rhonda, well, I don't think she's an active Toastmaster anymore, but Rhonda Cusack was my division director. I would go to her. She was a great division director, and she was very resourceful and was able to answer my concerns and questions pertaining to that.
So you had a team and you weren't alone, right?
No, I wasn't alone, yes. So thank you for bringing that out, that yes, you're not alone. You have a team of individuals that you can turn to be of great help to you when you run into those walls.
Cool.
Can I jump in on that too? That was awesome. That was awesome. And I want to jump in on that. My biggest challenge was, I'll say, well, one of my challenges was engagement, keeping everyone engaged and responding in responsiveness, and having unpredictable responses. I had one president, and some people can tell you that and is she in here? No, she's not. One president that said, I said, hey, I'm your area director. She responded to me, no, you're not. I'm not in the area. And I was like, oh, how do I handle that? But I mean, it's a challenge, but the good thing, the great thing about the challenges is you are not alone. And I want to take the time, like Leopard said, to thank people who come into your life. My mentor, Shakina, is my mentor. And so if you come into area director, you don't get Shakina. That's my mentor. You don't get her. Sorry. But Shakina helped me out. And you have a host of, just like I said, you are the resource for your club. Well, the deck is a great, amazing resource to you. They're not throwing you out in here alone, say, get these tasks done, do these things, bye, and report back to us later. No, they're not doing that. They are helping you along the way. You have so many resources to help you out. Even in situations like that, I got that response. How do I handle that? How do I handle it? Even if the bounce ideas or to get opinions, and somebody else in the deck may know that person, So you have help. You know that whatever challenges that you occur, you're not supposed to handle that alone. You do have help. Use your help.
Love it. It takes a village.
For the tech record, this morning, technically last night, I got a text message from Shakina that had an embedded voicemail in it. So that goes to a new level of tech right there. You are accomplishing that goal.
I get them all the time from her too. Who else wants to add to that? I see. Who else has an answer to that question and would like to? Bruce, Ashley, anybody want to jump in?
I'll jump in. First of all, I want to say that Norfie hit the nail on the head. And Shakina, yes, you are my mentor as well. You may not know it, but you are. You are the ultimate, in my opinion, Toastmaster. And I know that you're in with me to win it. So let's just continue to be a support for everybody else. What I've learned as an area director, the problems I had was a little bit of self-worth. Toastmasters has helped me overall on that, but being an area director and looking at all these clubs and seeing what they have going for them, what they have needed for improvement for, it's helped me with my self-confidence, and it's helped me be a better Toastmaster and know that I can help clubs overcome some of their downfalls. And I just, again, enjoy being an area director. And I think for any of you out there that have never been an area director, go for it. Take that change that Lefford Fate was talking about and be that area director, because I know that, many of you are going to get a call probably from Mallory, who will possibly be our next division director. They're going to be asking, she's going to be asking you, or whoever that division director is, they're going to be calling you and asking you if you will be an area director. And the proper answer to that question is yes.
Oh, and Bruce, from the parliamentary standpoint, that would be district director, not division director, even though Mallory has been an awesome one of those.
Sometimes I struggle with the words, but thank you for helping me. I never thought that I would have help from Trent Kenelly, but you did. Thank you very much. You are absolutely correct. It's district and not division.
All right,
Ashley,
Mallory,
did you have anything to add?
question?
I just want to make sure that Ashley, if she wants to comment, she could do that for the same.
I was just going to quickly say, because I've been part of a corporate club, and the clubs that are in my area are all they're not corporate. So when you talk about trying to give advice, listening in for feedback, like for corporate, we don't use Facebook, we don't use Zoom. So just the technology, how do you interact, how do you encourage others to join? It was just a different aspect. Another one of those challenges is because you have people who have been in Toastmasters longer, who've done this role. So people have opinions of how they did it versus how you should be doing it, and finding that balance, right? Finding the balance of what works, what makes sense, and kind of finding your voice as an area director.
Awesome.
Excellent points. So just let me follow up on that, Ashley, real quick, because we had mid-year training in Paris a couple of years ago, and we were assigned to Region 10, which is Ireland, England, and France. And the difference for us was that we had a bunch of corporate clubs and they had a bunch of community clubs. And so it was the most delightful few days that I got to spend with them, finding out what works for that versus ours. And so if I had a challenge for you, my challenge is get outside of your area, get outside of the division, get outside of the district. I was picking with Mallory that I actually went to a TLI in Canada and learned all kinds of stuff because it was a new group of people. We have a little bit of time left. My math teacher was arrested for carrying a protractor, a calculator, and a ruler. The police charged her with possessions of weapons of math instruction.
Okay.
They're getting better, Trent. They're getting better.
Okay. So,
Keep working at it. Keep working at it.
Other questions from the audience?
I think you just mentioned something really good, Trent, to be able to get out of your comfort zone, but also out of your district. And I've gone down to Atlantis and been there. And when you hear Ron Chapman being one of the speakers down there, and he's a great speaker, but to be able to be in a different district and be able to listen to how they do things, it's wonderful. And if anybody has an opportunity to be able to go to Atlanta, they have two different districts, one in the west and one in the east. But, it's a 2-hour drive, but it is really worthwhile to be able to see what goes on with different districts as well.
Or a 5-minute login now. All right. Other questions from the audience?
This is Ned Wallace. I've got a comment about biggest challenge.
Please,
And
sir.
it's been 35 years since I served as an area director, which was called area governor back then. My biggest problem was being instructed on what I was supposed to do as an area governor. The division governor did not assist me. I could go to them and ask them a question, but they did not tell me and help me do what I was supposed to do. We had training, yes, but I think all of you can understand that training is just an overview of what you're supposed to do. It takes in order to really do it. And my biggest challenge is that my division governor did not help me enough without me asking. And as a Toastmaster who did not know what I was supposed to do as an area governor, I needed that help. I needed them to help me. So as most all of you are upper level district officers, I think the best thing that you could do is make sure that whoever is your next person below you knows what they're supposed to do. Follow up with them in the same way that an area director needs to follow up with the clubs that are in their area.
Thank you, Ned. That was very good.
Yeah, great
And
comment.
for those that don't know, Ned has a storied pedigree within Toastmasters. If I were going to list the number of offices he's held, we would run out of time. But great
Okay.
observation.
I have put in the chat a link to a survey. Please take a few minutes to complete that. While you're doing that, let me know if it works, or if it doesn't work. While you're doing that, I'd like to thank all the panelists that are here to share with you their experiences. An hour doesn't seem to be enough to talk through all of this, but I appreciate Shakina Ziegler, Brian Hood, Ashley Griffin, Norfie Bird, Bruce Williamson for being here, taking time to share their experiences and hopefully inspire those of you who are here to jump in, be an area director. Because I heard from this panelist, there's time management, there's ways to collaborate and get things done. There's fun. You can get promotions on your job. I mean, it's endless, right? And you do get support from the village. I heard Ned talk about his challenges, but we're getting better and better with time and with the next generations. So inspire your next generations to jump in, have the courage to make that leap and make that change. Any parting words from anybody on this panel or in this room? Yes, Michelle.
Michelle.
I'll be honest with you. I'm here for the jokes. But I do want to add, I'm new to Toastmasters down here, and I want to give you a shout out to Brian, because he's part of, I guess, I'm under your group, I'm assuming, your area, and it was nice to see him here because it was a familiar face. Well, obviously, Brian, you're doing the right thing, because if I can recognize you and say, wow, he's here, and there's connection, you're doing a great job. So I just wanted to just make that statement.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you for making that statement.
For the record, you just did R, acknowledge, recognize, and encourage, all in one talk.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
And we've got one joke to close it out once Mallory released the floor.
Okay, sorry. I was going to say special shout out to Ashley. Thank you for being such a trooper. You're not feeling well, but you made it today. Thank you for that. I hope you feel better fast and that you continue on your journey. All right. Did the form work for everybody, the survey? Okay, awesome, 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 awesome. Well, I thank you all for being here. I'd like to share a couple more things about Trent. Trent is from the Clemson area, and he is an IT professional. I heard Shakina talk about developing skills, technical skills. Well, if you are in need, talk to Trent. All right, he has a ton of certifications, like if he wasn't busy enough, project management, public speaking, Paul Harris Fellow, Microsoft certifications, VMware certifications, Zerto, Quasal, and ConnectWise administration. I mean, really, Trent, I don't even know what half those things mean, but kudos to you for finding time to be a leader within the district and in your professional life as well. With that, we will all leave the breakout room, hit the button on the bottom, and join me in the main room. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate
Mallory,
your participation.
before we go, Mallory,
Yes.
before we go, why did the spoon come to the party dressed as a knife? the invitation said to look sharp.
Thank you, Trent. And with
And by the
that,
way, for the record, that is today's dad joke. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone, for showing up for this. I hope it was beneficial. And seriously, if you have a question you can ask one of us. We'd be
Yes.
happy to ask. And remember that 20-80 rule, 20% of your work will be responsible for 80% of your results. So you're going to
All
be
right.
which way?